By this point in time, I'm sure you've checked out Palworld in some sort of capacity, whether it be playing it for yourself or just seeing some gameplay online. Palworld has really taken over the early parts of 2024 with 5 million players in just 3 days, and I'm sure it's going on to surpass more and more milestones. This game has really captured people, especially Pokemon fans, who've wanted something different for a long while. If you want to know my reviews / impressions on the game, we have those up on Retro Rebound. I'll have it linked down below. It's about a 15-minute video, so check that out if you got the time for it. But overall, I enjoy the game for what it is. I'm not a big survival fan, and I found the creature design, by the way, when it was announced a while ago, kind of off-putting. I saw it right away in the trailers. And that's actually the point we're getting into today, because there's been a bit of drama surrounding this otherwise really successful game, and it goes into 2 avenues. The first being some allegations about use of AI, although there's no real clear evidence of that being the case. And the other, which is a much more ethical-based discussion, is about Palworld's potential use of models and assets from Nintendo's own Pokemon series to create the creatures that you see within Palworld. So we're going to talk about all of that here today, but before we dive into any of that, a quick word from today's sponsor. The following video is brought to you by Harry's. It's a big world out there. We have so many different approaches to life itself, but if there's one thing that we all have in common, it's the love of the convenience of finding the product you're looking for in the store you're shopping at. And that's why Harry's is great, because whatever store you're in, Harry's will be there. You can find them in Target, Walmart, Costco, Sam's Club, grocery and drug stores. I went to my local Target, and that's where I found all of this wonderful Harry's merchandise. From the razor with the Truman handle, which is a 2-tone handle with ergonomic no-slip grip for ultimate control, to their wonderful shaving cream that leaves a great scent, might I add, but also doesn't irritate my skin, something I've had a problem with in the past. You'll see me using it here. You want to check out some serious talent? Look at this man shaving while holding the camera. That is some seriously impressive stuff. All right, enough stroking my own ego here. Harry's does set aside 1% of their sales to promote men's mental health, so just keep that in mind when you're shopping. You're putting your money in a really good place. And not only that, but it feels like I'm stealing from them. For the price I'm paying versus what I'm getting here, this is some high quality stuff here. So ladies and gentlemen, make sure to check out Harry's next time you're shopping at your local Target, and let me know what you pick up. So let's get it started. I want to go and look at what Pocket Pair's CEO had to say about things. Pocket Pair is the developer for Palworld, for those who are unaware. And they directly tackled this subject about, hey, are we going to face a lawsuit from Nintendo or not? Here's what they had to say about the matter. On the other hand, we had a chance to talk to Pocket Pair's CEO, Takara Mizobe, before Palworld's release. And addressing this topic, Mizobe mentioned that Palworld has cleared legal reviews and that there has been no action taken against it by other companies. Mizobe shared Pocket Pair's stance on the issue, stating, "We make our games very seriously, and we have absolutely no intention of infringing upon the intellectual property of other companies." Mizobe has also commented that, in his personal opinion, Palworld is not at all similar to Pokemon, even citing other IPs that Palworld more closely resembles. He encouraged users to see past the rumors and give Palworld a second chance, and the comments then were that he says their game isn't like Pokemon at all, but rather Arc. I've not played Arc at all, but that's been the sentiment from what I saw in the comment section of my review / impressions, is it's less Pokemon and more Arc featuring creatures, which I'm, again, not a big survival game fan anyway. But let's be honest, the defining factor of this game is the base building and the way your creatures interact with the base, and that in turn makes the creatures the biggest focal point of your game. I mean, for God's sakes, when you look at the cover art, it's full of creatures. Where it gets really interesting is when you start going online and you see a lot of Twitter threads. 2 in particular I found really interesting. One was here just doing the eye test, is what I call it. Side-by-side comparisons of some of the most popular, new, and old Pokemon, and looking at them compared to what you're finding here in Palworld. From Cinderace to Giratina to Garchomps, Eevee especially, Luxray, Lucario, Decidueye. I mean, the list goes on. There's a lot of similarities here. According to 2 experienced AAA game artists who spoke to VGC, the model comparisons on X are likely evidence that Palworld's character models were indeed based on Pokemon assets. You cannot in any way accidentally get the same proportions on multiple models from another game without ripping the models, or at the very least, tracing them meticulously first, one senior character artist told VGC anonymously, adding, "I would stand in court to testify as an expert on this." They explained, to give you an idea of how impossible this is, sometimes we have to copy one mesh to another when we make sequels to games. For example, redrawing an NPC from one game to another, and even when we rework those old models, they only sometimes match this closely due to rigging changes that might need to happen. There have been times when dozens of artists are given the same concept art to create a 3D model. For example, during art tests for jobs, I've seen 30 artists try to make the same horse using the same schematics. None were as close to each other as these Palworld models are to the Pokemon models. None. The silhouettes and proportions here are near perfect matches. Another senior character artist in the games industry agreed the model comparisons could be compelling evidence of plagiarism. The wireframe meshes look different, so they're not the same models, but it's so close that they may have been built over the top of the Pokemon models and made a few changes so they weren't exactly the same. Keep in mind, this is just the word of 2 artists, not like the whole industry, but the whole industry is taking a look at the creatures and going, hey, they're pretty similar, and not only size and proportions, but even appearance. So we have our good friend Hoglaw, who actually had some legal analysis in this article from VGC as well. Here's what he said. Hoglaw attorney Richard Hogue commented, I can't speak to the science used on this Twitter account, but certainly evidence of actual assets being stolen is the kind of thing that is likely to make a more successful case. Simply being inspired by existing designs, even if that goes as far to use certain design rules, proportions, coloration, curve usage, eye size, etc., is generally not. I feel like from what I saw in the initial trailer, like my initial prediction was like, oh, Nintendo's going to get involved. They never did. And to me, that indicated that they may feel like they don't have a case. But now that it's being amplified, I wonder if they feel a little more emboldened. We'll see in the coming weeks and months. Naturally, it gets into the ethics of things because Pokemon designs are inspired by real-world creatures, as are Palworld, as are Digimon, as are Dragon Quest even. These go back years and years and years for some of these series. And I think there's a massive difference between inspired by, like, oh, that reminds me of that thing I really like, and very much shamelessly copying. There's a huge difference there. I look at Lies of P. There's this one boss fight in the game where you fight this dude who has pretty much Cloud's Buster Sword. And when you take him out, his Buster Sword is straight up in the ground, upside down, just like you see in the title menu of Final Fantasy VII. It was a clear nod to one of the many games that inspired Lies of P, but it wasn't this direct one-to-one ripoff of what Final Fantasy VII was. It felt like it was paying homage to a moment that a creative thought was really cool. Meanwhile, in the case of Palworld, it's at best extremely unimaginative and uninspiring character design, and at worst, plagiarism. I don't want to drag down what is otherwise a really mechanically sound and fun game. When you get all of these pals to work and they have all their different skills and whatnot, like on a mechanical level, this game is really fun. I mean, if you were to ask me, I don't think it's bad if it's inspired by Pokemon. I think if you're making a game with creatures, it's probably step one. Let's not try to make them look like the most popular creature collecting IP on the planet. One of the highest grossing IP on the planet. People are going to immediately snag that, but in a world where the day before got out the door for even 45 days, this is still something that shouldn't surprise me, but kind of does. So at this point right now, Palworld CEO is not really concerned about any sort of legal action. They feel they've passed all legal reviews. But then you have experienced members of the industry claiming that they are pretty clear copycats, and as well as a legal analysis suggesting that there may not be a case, even if there are clear similarities there, and that it may have to be a complete direct copy to have some sort of leg to stand on. We'll see what happens. Naturally, Nintendo has never been gun shy when it comes to firing up an old lawsuit. We've seen it time in, time out. They've been very protective of their IP, so there's no doubt in my mind that they're at least taking a close look at this to see if there may or may not be a case. We'll see if it evolves from there. The other avenue of this conversation is AI, which is continuing to bleed into video games in ways like the finals, which has AI announcers, to potentially Palworld, which is being accused of but has not been proven of using AI in its video games, and is just allegations based on a couple of Twitter comments, but we we know how social media works. Now, given what has happened here with the creature design and the clear advocacy for AI, I would not be surprised. But as of this moment in time, as I record this video, there has not been proof yet. We're going to go through a little article from Forbes titled Palworld Accused of Being an AI Product with No Evidence So Far. And you'll see here one of the main talking points is from Mizobe, who is the CEO of Pocket Pair, heavily advocating for AI. And in one instance, in the top right corner, you'll see here that the AI has evolved so much that he can no longer tell which is a Pokemon. And the left monsters are generated by AI, whereas the right are the real Pokemon. But yeah, he's pushing pretty hard for AI, so much so that they have a game from 2022 called AI Art Imposter, which is designed to be a more meta-like experience about using AI, and definitely one of those products that doesn't age well, quite frankly, especially in light of this conversation. So I totally get the suspicion, but again, as of right now, there has not been definitive proof, but there's enough smoke where people are starting to sniff things out here. There were a couple other things that Forbes picked up here. They say there is a January 2024 blog post from Pocket Pair relaying that an artist that had been rejected from 100 different companies was the person they hired, who now draws most of the characters in Palworld. Past that, Steam has implemented a policy this year where game submissions must disclose the use of AI. Quote, the survey now includes an AI disclosure section where you'll need to describe how you are using AI in the development and execution of your game, end quote. Then Steam says that much of the disclosure will be put on the Steam store page, quote, so customers can understand how the game uses AI, end quote. Nothing like this appears in the store for Palworld, which definitely I think is the more important one to take home, is that if they were avoiding some sort of disclosure like this, that would be really bad for them, and I'm not sure what would come out of it legally. I'm never going to claim to be a legal expert, but I imagine if you do not disclose something that you're supposed to disclose on a storefront, that probably spells trouble. So I feel like it would be in their best interest to admit it, and there clearly isn't shame attached to these developers who have been in the industry for a long while using AI. I think, again, of the finals where they're just very open about it. Like, yeah, we use AI, and there's definitely Microsoft and I think Ubisoft who have really committed to various levels of AI, whether it be using Azure or Ghostwriter. So AI is bleeding more and more into our industry. And while it wouldn't surprise me that Palworld is using AI, I definitely think this is where the lines are blurring, because here's the reality. Let's say they are. No one can really tell. What we can tell is they bought a bunch of assets from a storefront and flipped them into the game. Something that the game has come under fire for, which I found a little bit unfair, just because I know it's pretty blatant, like they bought it from the Unreal Store and then just threw it in the game. But a lot of games do use store asset flipping. Most games, to my knowledge, do. It's just about how cleverly you can hide them or repurpose them and then flip them. It saves a lot of time in development, to my understanding. But when it comes to AI, the problem here is no one can tell. And we're getting closer and closer to that precipice where you're going to have that game and you're going to really like it. And then someone's going to go, oh, that was by AI. You're going to have a profound experience. Oh, that was by a computer. And it's going to be that moment you freeze and go, oh no, just like we all will one day. And for those who don't know my stance, we've talked about this extensively on Defining Duke. I am very big on the creative process being done by humans. I think AI has its uses in development. I think when it comes to art, though, the best art is made by people who have gone through things and are channeling those emotions they felt, happy or sad or whatever it may be, into the product, whether it be writing, art, gameplay, and so on. So yeah, Palworld has brought up some ethical conversations as well. Many people stand on different ends of the spectrum for that, and I totally understand. But that's where I stand on things. That's what's going on with Palworld and some of the drama surrounding the game. Naturally, we'll keep an eye on this one because I'm very curious to see where it all ends up, and I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you, so please do fire away. Other than that, take excellent care of yourselves, and I will see you next time around. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.